What is going on, Hot Take Nation? It is DRW here for another episode of the Hot Take of the Day podcast. Today, we're going to get into a whole bunch of topics with my man, Dick Massimilian. What is going on, Dick? I love the headphones so much. You're rocking them.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
And so we got the black tarp going behind you for lighting. And what are you hiding behind there? I mean, everyone can see what I got going on in the basement in Grandma's house. But what do you got going on there?
I'm in an office building in downtown Dallas, and I'm at the offices of a company that I work with called Frozen Fire. So I'm in one of their offices, and I thought, I was going to do this from home, but I've got several dogs, and I thought, they'll bark, and so came down here.
I love it. And so, Dick, why are listeners tuning in? What are they going to hear about today? You give them a little introduction to yourself. We know each other a little bit, but would love to hear the background so listeners know what they're in store for in the next hour.
All right. So my wheelhouse is leadership development, and my slogan is great leadership is no accident. So I work with organizations, teams, and individuals. So on leadership for an organization, that means, do you have the people in place you need to achieve your strategy now and into the future? For a team, it means making better decisions together faster. And for an individual, it means being as personally effective as he or she aspires to be. So that's my primary wheelhouse. And I've worked in it for almost 30 years. But I also am a small business owner, so I have that additional perspective. Together with my wife, we own and operate a luxury home cleaning company in Dallas called Highland Park Housekeeping. So I'm a small business owner, and I'm a leadership development guy.
I was having an argument last night. I'm not even going to call it an argument, but a young woman I have known forever, and I hope she's listening because I'm going to take you for dinner. We're going to have a longer chat than we had last night. But she's 24, and she was in a group. We're all white. It was just we are. And my 15-year-old son was there who's like actually more conservative than me, if that's even possible. He listens to Ben Shapiro, and his is his favorite commentator. So I'm like, oh boy, if he's starting out Republican at 15, I don't even want to know where he's going to be at 30.
Right.
But anyway, so my friend at 24 was talking about racism, BLM, all these big topics. And one of the things that I said about it was that the current world, right, we want to give and I'm going to sound very controversial. We want to give excuses for why people aren't where they are. And 100% it's opportunity. And so people in the 1900s who made it wealthy, their generations after them were wealthy. They had more opportunities for education, to run businesses, to buy businesses, to go through the boom. Then those boomers had kids who then had access to wealth, who had access to opportunity, who then have done something. Whereas there's other people who don't have access to the opportunity. But in talking about all the BLM, we are taking away meritocracy. And like LeBron James was the example I used. Most white people would think of LeBron James as not a black person or a white person. They think of them as a successful person. And so like we've been trying to divide up, well, racism prevents this and there's systemic this and there's to me it's we value successful people and we don't value unsuccessful people. And somehow this racism chat has totally moved us away from opportunity and skill and merit. And we have this, and I'm curious what you think about that and ties to your kids and education and all the whole society.
Well, I think that America is the land of opportunity, equal opportunity. It's a land of opportunity. So it's equal opportunity. You need to provide opportunity. It's not the land of equal outcomes. And I think it boils down to, and we could have a long discussion about Black Lives Matter and, based in a Marxist philosophy that wants to, and that's why, socialism and the whole thing. But fundamentally, what you want, what it's equality of opportunity or equality of outcome. Now, here's the problem with equality of outcome. And Jordan Peterson nailed this when he said, if people are free, they are not equal. If people are equal, they are not free. So one of the problems with, I think, a fundamental problem with guaranteeing equality of outcome, because, you know, the whole theory here is the role of hierarchy is the oppressor oppresses the oppressed, and so that leads to unequal outcomes. Therefore, we got to change that. And so, you know, and hierarchy is built into language, so we have to speak differently, enter political correctness, and oh, by the way, everything's relative against your cultural backdrop, and so on and so forth. The problem we're going to have to confront is if you want to guarantee equality of outcomes, which, by the way, I don't think you can, you're going to lose freedom. And I'm afraid we're starting to see the beginnings of that. And, you know, I'll say something controversial. Winston Churchill said, socialism is the philosophy of failure, the creed of ignorance, and the gospel of envy. And I'm afraid that's where we're, you know, that's what I see that I don't like.
Well, and that is, I think, the core of the discussion is the haves versus the have-nots. And what I was trying, and I think you articulated it in a really effective way, which is the equality of outcomes is not there. And so when we think about everything that society should be doing, in my opinion, we should be doing everything to provide opportunity, and opportunity comes with education, and opportunity comes with parent engagement. And so two things. Number one, if the parents aren't engaged, and then those people are now 25 and they're protesting about how they didn't have an opportunity, to me, that's on the parents. Because I know, you know, one of the women that worked with my family, yes, it was a nanny when I was young. I don't think this is a surprise. But she worked 4 jobs to put her 2 kids through college. One is a nurse, one is an engineer. And she absolutely worked her ass off to give her kids a better life. That's called opportunity for your kin. It's not opportunity for you. And it takes 100 years to make everyone in your chain better. But you just don't get it like right now. And so what I'm seeing in this haves versus have-nots is the parents that were volunteering at school, that were running the school auction, that were donating money, donating time, having their kids who are also good citizens be with kids who are less fortunate in the public school system. What are those parents doing? They're pulling their kids from school. They're hiring the best teachers that aren't in a union to teach them at home with their friends who also can afford that, or putting them in private schools. And the opportunities that are going to be given to the other people who don't have access to those parents and those resources, the gap is going to be so massive because of what we've done and the systemic hatred that we're building into the system, where I'm like, I don't see it as systemic racism. I see it as systemic lack of opportunity. And sometimes you have to live in the bed you made. Some kids come out of the projects and make the MBA, and if that's what their goal was and they don't make it, there's a lot of kids that now work at Amazon because they didn't focus on education. They picked their horse, they lost, and that's the way society's supposed to work. Now, that might sound, you know, elitist, and, you know, you're white and you had all these opportunities, so you don't know what I'm talking about, but that's the challenge that I see, and I think you see it as well.
No, I do. As I think we may have talked about this, but I think America's the land of opportunity, and what enables America to be the land of opportunity is the public education system. And if we lose the public education system, we have lost our national soul. So I am a big believer in the educational system. But here's the deal: the problem, and I see this with my daughter, the schools are being asked to address a whole host of issues that don't have anything to do with education. Thomas Sowell wrote, you got to have parents having their kids show up at school ready to learn. That means they had breakfast, you know. And if they show up at school and they're not ready to learn, how is to ask teachers to deal with all that is difficult at best, but then the response to that is, but if teachers don't deal with it, who will? So I don't know. I am very worried about the educational system, and I don't know what the solution is. I do personally think part of the solution is school choice, but certainly not the entire solution by any stretch of the imagination. And I do think that we've got to be willing to live with unequal outcomes to be a free society, but we also can't ignore the problem of the haves getting more and the have-nots getting less. But then we get to what's the remedy? I like capitalism to remedy that. I don't like socialism. And it's no accident we had the lowest unemployment rate in history previous to COVID.
Yeah.
So that's going to be really that I think is that's the big thing in the election that I worry about. I worry about the solution to inequality is going to be the socialist philosophy, which is going to exacerbate versus cure the problem.
Well, and it comes full cycle back to Ayn Rand's book, Atlas Shrugged, and that the more you have clamping down through regulations and trying to afford equal opportunity to everyone, those who have built and create will find a different place to build and create, and it will not be there. And so when I look at even just state to state, when California and New York are raising taxes on their most wealthy and most productive members, those wealthy and productive members are going to discover that there are other places to live that are a lot more accommodating, which then exacerbates the budget problems in those states. So we have a world of challenge, and I really, really appreciate you coming on today, because I think we covered a lot of stuff. I love the Myers-Briggs piece, but then tying it all back with self-awareness and how everything is intertwined. What advice would you give to those listening about how they could be better and maybe deal with whatever it is they're dealing with, whatever challenges that they're dealing with right now? What advice would you give them?
Great question, because I'm working on this myself. Let's see. I think that you've got it. First thing is stay connected. Stay connected to as many, people and organizations, and stay connected. Read stuff. Just read stuff. Read good stuff. Or listen to stuff. Listen to good stuff. You no longer have to turn on. You don't have to read the New York Times, the Washington Post, or whatever. You can find plenty of great material online. Stay connected, read stuff. And here's the third thing that I would say, and this I think is far and away the most important. Be grateful for what you have. Be grateful for what you have, because here's one of the things I can tell you for sure. As bad as you think, well, first of all, if you're listening to this podcast, you're in the top, 0.0001% of the people in the world, because you can listen to this. So I think it's often all too easy to forget how lucky we are to live in the United States of America and have what we have. So I would say stay connected, read, and be grateful for what you have. Because I think just as you get more of what you focus on, I think if you focus on gratitude, life seems to go up and to the right more.
I love that. Well, Dick, I thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me, man. It's great.
I got a lot of value out of it, and I hope our listeners did too. Until the next episode, be safe, be good, have a great day, and